Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio. I am your host, Kelly Meehan, a citizen of the universe and a passage keeper and mentor for our new Earth children. I believe we are entering into a new psychic structure of our reality, and it is meant to embody deeper trust and ways into solid self-love and fearless integrity. Our new world energy of spirit babies needs us to consciously create within conception, trust pregnancy, and have freedom to birth and parent from innate wisdom. This is Spirit Baby Radio. Welcome to episode 225, October 2025, Sacred Crossing, a compassionate care and the art of death midwifery. In honor of October Pregnancy Loss Awareness Month and Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day, October 15th, I welcome you to step inward and explore with us the conversations of love, grief, support, birth loss, and death midwifery. Welcome, Olivia.
Welcome. Thank you, Kelly. Pleasure to be here.
Yes, I'm very excited and very honored because I think I've spoke about you for many, many years. And oh my gosh, right before the world shut down, 2019, I felt this call to join the training in death midwifery. And it's like, what does that even mean? What's involved? Is it going to be triggering? Of course, it's going to be triggering. Everybody knows everybody's triggered by death and grief. And I felt very ready for it. And it was such an amazing experience. And we had such an eclectic bunch of students. I laugh because we had a lot of interesting experiences and opinions, and it was so awesome. And then I continued forward with all the other modules. And so I look at Olivia as a mentor in the death space, and she's a very humbling, very present, really pure being. And I feel like we've need to get her on Spirit Baby Radio for a long time, and we've connected and talked here and there. And now I'm like, I feel like this is perfect for her energy to be in that space for October. So,
Oh,
Olivia, I'm going to say I probably say, I should have gone over this before. What is your full name? I didn't, I want to make sure I'm saying it right.
it's Olivia Bareham.
Yeah, I say it wrong. Okay. I like get something in my head and I do it wrong. So I'm going to read your little bio here. Olivia Barham is a death midwife, interfaith minister, master teacher, and founder of Sacred Crossings, the Institute for Conscious Dying and Alternative Funeral Home in Los Angeles. For over 20 years, Olivia has been guiding individuals towards a conscious dying experience and empowering families to care for their loved ones after death with a vigil and funeral at home. Olivia is internationally renowned for her transformative death doula and death midwifery training programs. And we're going to learn more ways, of course, at the end, how those can find you, connect with you, and join this deeper space. And so me and Olivia were talking a little bit before, and I'm all like, let's save it for the conversation. And I remember in the training with you, I was like, I was so hungry for the death and grief piece around children and around babies. And it's like that is like so hard. And I remember you showed a film, Stephen Jenkinson's, and say his last name right either, where it was like this 2-year-old was, coming home to die. And it was like, oh, it was so intense. But yeah, we all had tears and we're all just showing up to the best of our own heart spaces. And maybe I can even, actually, maybe we should go back a little bit. And before I jump into that, how do you get into this death midwifery? Like, what was that like calling for you? I'm curious to see. I want others to hear.
Well, it all began when Mum died, and I went back home to England to be with her and take care of her. And her the way she died was really informative for me about how to do this consciously. She did it proudly, without fear. And so I can get into that more, but I talk about that in my conscious dying classes because she died consciously. She was aware of what was happening. She had put all her things in order. She was clear. She was complete with all of her relationships. And she was ready to go. So that allowed us, the family, to just hold space for her. There was nothing undone, nothing unsaid. It was just really quite lovely. And so that was my first experience of like, wow, this is nothing to be afraid of. This is really beautiful. I wonder why people are so frightened of this. So that opened my curiosity to explore this more deeply. But the trigger which actually propelled me into the death midwifery piece was when the hospice nurse came. She missed Mum's actual last breath, but she came a few moments later to help. And she said to me, Olivia, would you like to help me prepare your mother's body? And I said, wow, yes, thank you. I would love to
Mm.
do that. How do we do it? And it was those next few hours that really changed me because I got to hold Mother's body in my arms while the nurse just hummed a little song and got soapy water and did something that was so natural and so simple and so tender. It felt holy. The energy in the room shifted from this anticipatory anxiety, like, is she okay? Does she need anything? Is she
Mm.
comfortable? To, you know, that feeling that we have at the end of an exhale when we take a long, deep breath and then we rest in that space. That was what the whole room felt like for hours. And I got to experience what I call now liminal space. It's that space that's not really you're not one thing or another. You're in transition, and it's you hold it like this, almost like a feather, because it changes, but it's so available for you to experience the little tiny nuances of what's going on in your body. And for me, the most powerful experience was tenderness, real. It was as though I was touching into the soul of God almost.
Mm.
It was precious. So I was like, this is beyond just sitting there bedside with her. Now, why have we given away this tenderness, this moment of opportunity to feel what it is to be human and to love and to lose and to feel? Why have we given that away to strangers and body bags and refrigerators? We've thrown something away here. So that was the impetus for me to look into this more deeply. Like, damn, what have we lost in individually and in our culture by, handing this over to somebody else? So, long story short, I got to help the nurse prepare her body to wrap it in this beautiful burial trousseau that she told me was in the bottom drawer of a dresser, and she'd had it the last and it had never seen the light of day. And her grandmother had made it for her out of the same piece of cloth as her christening robe, because apparently in our family tradition anyway, this was a blessing that you would give the mother the christening robe, and at the same time you would give her the burial trousseau as a promise or a blessing that your infant would grow to fill this beautiful 6 foot gown. And that touched me too. Like, wow, what a beautiful tradition that to embrace the fact that we're going to die the moment the baby is born.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
so that's also informed me and given me a little bit more, um, how should I say, a completion, a feeling of complete while you're still here in the process of growing. It's already ended. We've already died at some point. So,
Mm.
and as we know more and more, there is only the present. In collapsing these two moments, bringing them right here, I feel much clearer and stronger and available to myself and whomever is with me because of having this experience over and over and over again. Because what I what happened for me in caring for mother and shrouding her. And then we laid her out in the living room with a beautiful rose and her Bible, and people came to visit. And it was so normal and alive. The kids came in and the dogs and the clanging of the teacups in the other
Mm.
room and mother laying there on this hospital bed with her rose and she looked
Mm.
amazing. I was like,
Wow.
she's still here. She's definitely still
Yeah.
here. So I went, I want to help other people have this moment and not be in such a hurry to give it up to funeral directors and institutions and let's see what there is to be had here. How can we become different because we took our loved one all the way to the grave or the crematory, and we imbued all these rituals along the way so that we who are left behind could relax into this
Mm.
new space without mother, or in your case, without a child. And along with that goes without the dreams and the hopes and the wishes that all of that is now dissolved in this liminal space when you have the body of the loved one or the child still laying there.
Mm.
Nothing sudden has happened. It's not trauma. It's healing.
Wow, I love, oh my gosh. I feel like I've always known this about your energy. You can really feel the presence of this story. And I remember you're reminding me of the story that you did share that. And I love the normalness that you bring in and so many things you said that feel so valuable. And I learned so much from you because I didn't realize there were so many of these rules. And yeah, what I'm getting, what you're saying is like taking back, it's like home birth, home death. I don't know if they call it home death. Home, bringing everything back to the slower space of just our heart space, being with the grief because we know there's going to be grief. And, I'm curious, and you've done this so many times. I mean, you've done this for 2 decades. And so you're bringing in a certain energy and connection with others to me, it feels like a slowdown to be present. And like you said, some would even say we die every day we sleep and wake up as a new day, as a new consciousness. And I understand that more now than I ever have. And there's something about, of course, being in the present time, but I know we do carry a lot of heavy shit from the past, even unconsciously. But I'm curious when I want to hear about where I do want to go into deeper like conversation with grief, but I also want to hear, I know stillbirths is an area that you've been really supportive in. And what does that look like when someone comes to you and needing your support? Like, what does that mean and involved in that?
That's a big question because if the mother has gone to the doctor and they've lost the heartbeat,
Yeah,
that now she knows what is ahead of her. So she's anticipating this. She has to birth the
yeah,
baby that is not going to live. And she's dealing with her own shock of the the smattering of all of that she'd hoped for. So she herself is in a state of shock and trauma. And now she's got to do this. So I think it's extremely difficult for mom to let herself feel everything because she's in a tsunami of there's so many feelings there. And in a normal, in a regular, when we have a traumatic experience, we are held, hopefully, by loved ones and friends so that we can dare to feel all of the feelings. The harder thing for mom is that she's still got work to do.
yeah.
She still has to birth her baby. So all of that has to go on hold until
Mm,
this event has occurred. So our role as the death doula or the death midwife in this situation is to create a container. And
mm,
by doing that, we create this safe space so that she can feel held and allow herself to dare herself to feel the depth of what the last thing in the world she wants to feel, but
mm,
is her ability to to move forward in any way after this has occurred is going to be so much more difficult. So my question to myself and what I try to impart to others is, how do we create that container? And she can fall into it. Literally, she's going to fall into that space. And in that space, oh, she's going to birth this child. And then after that, then there's more work to be done. Now, what the last thing we want is for this child to be whisked away. Her brain, her body, her heart, her mind, everything has to adjust now. And now she's got it in her arms. So this container now has to remain there for her to be present now with the body, which is even probably 10 times worse than the imagination of what's going to happen. And now it's right here in her arms and it's not going to breathe. It's not going to open its eyes. That. And that's that. Then the next space, how can we provide her with rituals that will allow her to become fully present right in this moment with her infant and bathe it and dress it in the outfit that she most wanted to put on it for the first time?
Mm,
How does she create a which will be its container for its journey into the retort or into the grave? That's her job. She's
mm,
mom. She now has to create its deathbed, its bed to lay in.
mm,
And when you think about these things, they're terrifying and horrible. But when you're fully in it and you're held by others, women usually can hold this space because we know that she gets to do it. And those are the memories that take her forward. She does every tiny little thing for her baby because she's the mom. She's still the mom. She gets to lay him to rest. She gets to do whatever she needs to do, and everybody's different. So I try not to impose
yeah.
or even give suggestions. What does your heart want
Mm,
to do?
interesting. That's very powerful because what I've worked with a lot of stillbirths throughout the years. You know, I call them the children of light, the boys, the girls, the sons, the daughters. And there's always different stories that are shared because I'm working with the after, with the heartache, the grief, and even like, wanting wanting to move into conception again, but it's of course it's terrifying, scary, and there's a lot in that. But I know I see it all the time that many mothers and fathers do move into a healthy full-term pregnancy, and it's different for everybody. But I feel like what you said is like, yeah, what does your heart want to do and how you hold the space for that, because you're right, there's like a list of a million ideas. But when you're in the space of, I always feel like with any birth loss, like you're in like you're the creator of life, but you're also there's death inside you. And I talk about that in many of my podcasts, like you're birthing a part of death, right? I mean, that I feel like we need to say that and not like make it feel like making it real. Like this is real and it is hard work. It's like I've had many women say, I labored my baby at home and I wanted to do that, and knowing that they were going to birth a baby that wasn't alive, their baby. And other times it was like they wanted to just lay back and just, cut the baby out of me. And I have such compassion and no judgment for the choices in those moments that are highly traumatic, that are, and just that are happening. And so, because I was going to ask you next, then I was like, what would you advise? What would be good? Like, but it's hard, like you said. You remind me of this book, and I don't recommend this book for everybody. I recommend it for professionals, healers, and people in the death space. It's called Ghost Belly. And why I say that, unless you've really healed through the layers of your own grief and death connection with your own loss, this book is a woman. She talks about what she got to do after her son. She home birthed her son, and he had some very rare biological thing that couldn't have been prevented, is what she came to conclusion with, whether at home, whether in a hospital. And she went down, and he was in the funeral place, the morgue, maybe it's the morgue. I'm not sure that's the right word, but she said they would keep him on cold and they would give him to him, and she'd put him in a baby wearer. And this book talks about this walking around the neighborhood. And it was so powerful and healing for her. When I've shared this with people throughout the years, on occasion, they look at me like, what? Like, are you out of your mind? And I'm like, that feels normal to me. Like, we're animalistic, biological, kinesthetic. She had to process how she needed to process. And it's interesting because people get so like, oh my, and she was able to do it with an agreement with this funeral company to like for a few days. And she had to really work with that. It was like, I just think that's so powerful, like that she was able to do that and that we can reach out in those spaces. Is there anything that you can share from your own experience? I don't know if it's confidential, like something someone did that was really beautiful and healing.
Well, I'm so glad you bring that up because everybody is unique and we all have different ways of doing things. And the unfortunate thing in our society is we've decided, or somebody has decided, the right way to do things, and we've all sort of kind of gone along with that in all areas. Education, the kids are all put in the class, and one teacher says it, and where some of those kids they can't learn like that. It's the same with everything. I think what's missing in our culture is the permission to connect with what's right for me and what body need. And she knew intuitively that she needed to carry this baby around so that her body, her heart, and her mind got to know that this baby is not going to move. It's not going to open its eyes when you get home. And then it takes a minute to realize that.
Mm,
But her taking it around was her way of giving it the life she needed to give it
yeah,
so that she could say goodbye. And it it's important to recognize that everybody knows innately what they need, but the hospital tell you what's protocol or what's
yeah,
best. And if you suggest to somebody ahead of time, and I find this a lot, they call me to say, baby, they're going to deliver still,
yeah.
and I give them this option. Would you like to bring your baby home?
Mm,
And I can hear the mother goes, ah, of course she does, but that
yeah,
is so
yeah,
terrifying. The idea of bringing home a dead baby
yeah.
is so unknown and frightening that she goes, oh no, I don't think we need to do
Oh,
that. And then
interesting. Yeah,
most often, because they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they're going to miss. And then when you talk to dad's role is to protect his wife at all costs. And this terrible
hmm,
thing is happening. And the last thing he wants is more opportunity for grieving, crying, it being terrible. It's already terrible
yeah,
enough. So he's usually the one who closes the gate and says,
yeah.
"No, I don't think we need that. I'm talking for my wife. She's too upset." Um, and I'm like,
Mm,
oh, so people have to see it first
mm,
to go, I want that for me. Um, and then I don't, what happens is when they say no, and they do what they can in the hospital and they take beautiful pictures, and that is definitely a healing balm for them. They do feel a measure of, but then they go home and like mom has empty arms.
yeah.
She's laying at home, imagining her baby in a refrigerator somewhere.
Oh,
That that to me is the suffering. That's when she gets to her pain at home, aching, her tears
yeah,
are their agony. But if her baby is in a Moses basket by her bed
yeah,
and she's trying to sleep and she gets to touch him picking up, she
yeah,
feels his cold. She feels, and she does it as
yeah.
often as she needs to. What I've noticed is by the second or third day, she'll call me and she'll go, "Okay, I'm ready now. I get it.
Wow.
I
Oh
get
my gosh.
Can you?" And when she says, "Can you come and get him?" Not because she doesn't want him anymore or
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
happened, it's
She
because
feels the completion, right?
she's complete. Well,
Yeah.
yes, she
Complete-ish.
knows.
Yeah, I know what you
And she
mean.
knows as a mom that this is the best thing to do for her baby
Yes.
now is to
It's
let his
time.
body be, yeah, it's time.
One with the
And
earth. Yeah.
yeah, it's kind.
I know. Oh, I
We're
love
not
that. It's
kind.
kind. Yeah. I've seen a lot of
And I'm
regret from women. That's why they come and they have regret. Like I should have done something. But like you're sharing, I feel like you're giving really beautiful, loving permission, those that have had this kind of experience, to say, like, it's okay. Like you in that moment, you're in this trauma, like, and there's so many levels of it. And what can you give to like those that feel like, is there a ritual ceremony? What could you do after that felt like that you couldn't, maybe intuitively, it's like, I really want to take my daughter home and I didn't and I couldn't and now I really want her maybe days later, a week later. How does someone process that? What have you seen or what would you say?
I would definitely do a ritual. And in a situation like that where the baby's been cremated, and they had the ashes. So she does have something,
Yeah.
and what hopefully she has a photo. So we'll set up an environment in the home where they would have brought baby home with either the ashes or a photo or even a the crib or a Moses basket. And now we collectively, and you know how to do this, we'll bring in the baby who died and
Mm,
name him or her if she wasn't named, but that's the
mhm,
naming ceremony. But most babies already have their name. And we'll make it very, very that the energy of this baby is coming into this room. Now,
mm,
mom gets to make the bed and just energetically place her in it. We say prayers together. We're
mm.
lighting a candle. We'll create some kind of a ritual that she would have done had she can still do it because, as you know and I know, the energy is just the same when we leave and go the other side. So, and letting the family have that experience together is it's a must. You must
Mm.
do something. Otherwise, there's this hole, and it's
Yeah,
cavernous, and the imagination puts things in there. If we don't create a ritual that the mind and the brain can reflect upon later. Well, at least
yeah.
I did that. I put him in his bed, and we said goodbye.
Mm.
Um, and I know this from my mother's first baby was stillborn
Oh,
before
wow.
me.
Yeah.
And she describes in those days, the mothers were put in a ward. She was in a ward with seven other women, and they all had, she didn't have hers, and hers was taken away right away. The doctor said, it's
Mm.
better that you don't see it. This will help you get over it quicker.
Mm.
And these are all well-meaning people
Yeah.
trying to protect us from what is real, which is
Yeah.
agony.
Wow.
If had she been, she said, had they given me my dead baby to hold, I would have been okay. But I had
Wow.
to lay there without mine, and everyone else has theirs. I know. All they told her was it was a girl, that they didn't let her see it or
Mm.
touch it. And she said she never, ever, ever, ever healed on in any
Yeah.
level at all. And that baby was brought into her family with the three children that followed. She would always say to people she had four children,
Yeah. Of
and that's all she
course.
would say. But
Yeah.
we were confused as children because there was no
Yeah.
more of the story. Um,
When I meet stillbirth specific clients, I always speak to the child as present. I'm like, it's ingrained in me now. I'm just like, okay, what's your son or your daughter's name, or whatever. And most of the children and all the years have names, but like maybe one or two. And I ask why out of open curiosity because, and I see a lot of families, they do include their child in there, even if they're what I would say in light body. And you're reminding me, I remember a few different stories over the years where I was told by like, oh, my mother's generation, it's different generation many years ago, where no one talked about the stillbirth. No one talked. Oh, my brother died at 1 month old. No one's ever talked about it. And the mother, when it's opened up, is like the biggest secret and wound in their hearts. And it does make us all sad. And the grief is palpable, as we know. And I don't think people realize, and when we're born through grief through others before babies are born, there is an imprinted impact on us in different ways. And because I was always very curious, my mom had a lot of birth loss. She had I think she had a later loss, but it wasn't very acknowledged. She said it was a daughter, which I thought was interesting. But she said she had like six miscarriages before my brother was born and said after him, she would never have any more children. And then she had two more. We were hard spirit babies. We were like, we're coming. And there's such a in the culture of the world, I would say. I work with everybody people all around the world, and I hear a lot of similarities, especially with early loss of miscarriage, and maybe we can talk about that in a minute, and stillbirth. there's like, let's just take it away, bury it here, not look at it, let's move on. And it's so tragic to me. Like, I feel like what you're saying is like bringing in the presence and going into the hardship. You have to go into the hardship, being held in it and letting whatever that instinctual in the moment process is, because we don't know. I mean, I know you've had death in your life. I've had death. I never know when someone dies in my life what my feelings and reactions will be in that moment. And I have to share that because when my mom died and my dad died, I did something very similar. I did not plan to do it, but once I found out and heard, I had this like, I heard myself go, ah, and literally collapsed to the ground. I like collapsed to the couch, collapsed to the bed with my mom, collapsed to the couch. And I don't, it was, it reminded me of birth. Like when you have sounds in birth, like I was like, what's happening? Like it just took over me and it's what I needed, I suppose. But it was really interesting to just feel, it's like, okay. And then I would, be headed into all the feelings, memories, and all this other initiation into this other shifting of the lineage, really. Because I feel like when those that pass on, there's such a massive reworking and, holding the hands of grief and holding the hands of this powerful expanded light body is a mind game for people. I can understand why people stay in the grief and they don't know what and I do think there's grief is healthy, and maybe we'll talk about that. I do think grief is healthy, but are we letting ourselves fully express it? Probably not, you know? And there could be grief people can just layer up in their body for years and years and years. And again, I can speak about that, realizing that a lot of my inflammatory cortisol responses was just such unmet grief in my body, literally exploding in ragefulness in my joints and my beingness because of the loss I had living. Like I realized like after my mom died, I really grieved her living because she was not well, mentally ill and physically and so then I was taking care of that and I was like, where's my mothering? Right? So there's even grief in that. And then she passes and then that's a whole other thing because I was like, wait a minute. Now there's this other layer of grief. Like this sucks. Like I was kind of angry actually. I had a lot of anger of like, well, I don't get it. Like I've grieved her whole life and now I have to grieve her to a different level. And it was so painful, actually. And I found the women that were came into my home were so pure and loving and they took care of me because it was kind of like, do you want to eat? Do you want to do anything? And I had an infant. So I was like, I'm just nursing him depleted, like, and he's just so pure and beautiful and alive. And I was just like, I don't know. I don't know what I need. People were asking, like, even when like, what do you need? I was like, nothing. I don't know. So then I had friends come with food and I was like, oh yeah, I guess I should eat. Um, but I think you go into this grief fasting or this whatever this thing is. But yeah, let's talk more about like that grief space. I know we were talking about that earlier.
Wow. Hmm. It's complicated. I find, well, what you're sharing about our autoimmune diseases and all the inflammation in the body, I really believe most definitely that a lot of that is unfelt feelings.
Yeah.
And it could be grief, it could be sorrow. And I think grief and sorrow are a little different to me because I
Really?
feel
Yeah, tell me. I'm curious.
for me, when I
Uh,
when I'm grieving, I'm going, oh,
mm,
it's because I wish something were not the way it was.
mm,
I'm sad that I'm sad because I can't be with that person anymore. They died,
mm,
or some, and there's this longing, this wanting it to be different, and that hurts. When you said it was very painful, I don't think sorrow is painful, but
mm,
grief,
mm-hmm,
because we wish it wasn't the way it
mm.
was, that's painful. But when you're wishing something isn't the way it was, it's you're not really fully present to the actual feeling, which is sorrow, which is
Wow.
helpless. And when I let myself feel sorrow,
Mm,
I literally fall open like petals falling off a flower.
mm,
There's that the depth of helplessness and is to me is sorrow, the depth of love which hasn't got a place to go. It's not that I want it back. It's deeper than that. It's underneath that feeling, and it's it's tangible. It has a texture to it, and it's not painful. it's um I want to say it's a sensation.
Mm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you can actually, if you let yourself do it, and it's hard to do because in our culture we're not trained to, we're not usually allowed to. Everybody's going, it's
Yeah.
okay. They're patting it in instead of letting it out, which means to let something out, you have to take a step back from the person and sit across the room and go, you've got this, which is the container, and giving them permission to fall into
Yeah.
the sorrow, which is, but that sorrow, when I can get there, when I can give myself permission
Yeah.
to touch it, it's the divine.
Yeah.
And when I'm there, I'm like with God, and it's the only thing that really is real anyway. And you touch it for almost just a second, and you come back up the other side,
Wow.
and everything feels a little bit different. It's like,
Yeah, when you say
oh, I
that,
just,
like when you said that about the sorrow, it felt like such self-love, actually. That's what I'm perceiving when you say, I was like, yeah, there's a difference. Because grief can feel kind of, I don't know, spiky to me. And it sounds weird to say, do you know what I mean? Very like, but what about, I
I
actually
think
love how
that a
you
good
explain that.
example,
Yeah,
I
good.
was going to give a good example of the
Yeah,
difference
go.
between the mother who goes home with empty arms and the baby is in a refrigerator at the hospital. That is grief. That's agony. It's agony because
Mm,
her whole being is resisting what is.
hmm.
Now, that that's agony and that's suffering to me. She brings the baby home and the baby's beside her in a Moses basket and she's laying in bed. And that she lets herself feel
Mm,
that depth of sorrow that this dream is not going to be alive at her breast. She gets to feel something else. And it's so soft. It just helps her to dissolve into this open shape. And when she's open like that, she can receive whatever's next. She's,
mm.
but when you're like this, oh no, you can't receive anything. You're shut
Yeah.
down. Because you want it to be different. Um,
And you make a
so
good
when I
point
note,
about, yeah, good, sorry.
well, I was going to say, when I notice that I'm, and you can do this
Yeah,
with anger, frustration. If you're in this
yeah.
shape, you're going, dang. And if I can take a one deep breath,
Mm,
it it dissipates. Whatever the feeling is, it dissipates. And then I get to feel what's underneath that.
mm.
And it's usually either fear or sorrow. Yeah. And the sorrow is love. Love's
Oh, I
underneath
know.
everything.
That's, I
That's the
mean,
good
that's
news.
that's what I felt when you shared that. And I thought it was so beautiful and so it's so powerful because I think that many women, when grief comes up a lot in my sessions, even when maybe it's infertility and there's year after year of nothing happening and there's a lot of intervention. It's just like, and when I bring up grief in certain sessions, because it's in the space, not for everybody, but some of these women are, I can feel their gratefulness of like, oh my gosh, recognizing me, someone sees me, we could talk about it. Because I, like you bring death in, I'll bring grief in as this normalness, and I really feel it in my bones and essence. And it's not me just saying it or scared of it because I feel like I'm not scared of it. And we're going to talk about it. It's in the space. And I'm very conscientious when I do share it, the love around it, because people are very, whatever their family life is, their culture can be very hurtful. Like you're not supposed to grieve. We got to shut it down. But if it's in the space and it does come up in some people's more energy fields that are more present, and I'm very like, oh, okay, let's talk about the grief that's here. And in a way where I feel very positive about it. And women have really felt very helped by that conversation. And there are some women that are very deep in the crying and really just so in it. And I'm just like, okay, we're going to be in it. Like this is kind of where we are, or where they are. And I just have this thing as like not interrupting it. And some women get really scared because I said, I get it. They don't want to be clinically. When I use the word clinical, it's like, oh, I'm going to be diagnosed with something because I can't handle that energy. And I was like, that, yeah, some people will go in that direction and need certain medications and things. But I feel like if we bring it back to the working with it in that emotional kind of energetic space, that it just opens. So I know we were talking earlier, or before, like before we got on, is the world grief right now. I mean, that's big. What can you say about that? Like that's so big, but let's see what you have to say.
That is a big subject, but can I just
Yeah.
address something that
Yeah.
you said about the grief, the woman who's feeling the grief, and she's afraid that it will go to a diagnosis.
Yeah.
And what I is that a lot of people are suffering, not suffering, because the suffering is there, but they're putting their attention on being positive, um,
Yeah.
doing what they should do next, trying again, doing another round of
Mm,
IVF.
hmm.
Um, and yet the suffering is underneath. So they're trying on top of the suffering. And when the mother, I know it's frightening to feel that level of sorrow because what you've wanted to happen isn't happening. But once if she can feel safe enough to feel that, it doesn't turn into depression because depression is the suffering, not suffering. It's the
Mm-hmm.
depressing the feeling, and then that does end up with a diagnosis. But the more we can encourage people, like, you've got this. I know you know how to feel this. I know it's terrifying. I'm right here, and you've got this.
Mm,
Little by little. And a lot of people, they have no practice of feeling what they're really feeling from
yeah.
childhood, you know.
Yeah.
Even in the high chair, the kid says, I don't want to eat anymore. Oh, come on, one more bite. That's She has a feeling and she's not allowed that feeling because she's got to have one more bite.
Mm,
It happens so early by very well-meaning parents who are doing the best for their kid, but we're actually suppressing a feeling that's there and needs to be honored. And
it reminds me, yeah. Good, sorry.
well, I'm saying because we've not had the practice at doing it, when it comes to it, and the woman or whoever, the man too, the father's feeling these feelings too, and it's even probably harder for him. But so it's giving them permission, and little by little, because one day they might just put their big toe in that well of grief,
Mm,
and it scares them, and it's okay because they come once they realize that they have a choice, they can go in, not today, come back out. But now they, on their own accord, can come in and out. And then when they're ready one day,
mm,
they'll have flexed that muscle of feeling enough so that they can sink into it and then
mm,
dissolve. And then when you do, it takes about literally 20 seconds because you go right down to the bottom and you come back up for air naturally. And when you come back up and take another breath, that's a new life that
mm,
comes in. But if you don't go down to the bottom and you stay kind of treading water on the top of your feelings, then you never get to have
mm,
that transformation occur. And you're always clutching for something that's going to save you.
mm. You're Olivia, you're
Mm.
like a somatic therapist over here.
Well, I include that in
Yeah,
in
I'm
my
like, I
deaf
feel
field
it. Like, I'm
training.
all
It's
about
part of it.
somatic psychology, but because that to me feels like such a, because you're bringing in the whole body experience. Like, how could you not? It's not just this intellectual cognitive conversation. There's like, bringing in all of that. But what about,
Oh, the culture.
do you work with miscarriage? Do people come or is that not really, that's a little different.
Yes, it is different. And because I have this alternative funeral home, Sacred Crossings,
Mm.
if you're in Los Angeles, also is a funeral home, and we offer alternatives to traditional methods. So often the mother will call to say that she's miscarried like 15 weeks, 17 weeks,
Yeah.
and I know I'm sure to ask them, is the hospital going to allow you the
Mm.
remains? And sometimes, which I love, I think everybody should, they say yes.
Yes.
So now I'm talking to a family who have a jar or usually a plastic container
Mm-hmm.
of the remains, and they're terrified. They don't know what to do with it.
Mm.
So they say, "Will you cremate it?" And
Mm.
I like to say, look, you have this now. It's your opportunity together, the two of you, to do a ritual. And that's
Mm,
why you're there probably too, to offer them ways that they can do a
hmm.
ritual with the remains, with a name ceremony, and it can be absolutely beautiful. What I found though is a lot of people, they don't want to do it. They want to have a cremation. They know they're supposed to do something.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never heard of that with miscarriage. That's why I think what happens in my clients, it's half and half. Some clients will you'll go through the hospital and they just, take it, move on, or some will birth. And I've been working with women in the middle of their miscarriage. It's a very different energy because they're laboring and there's a lot
Mhm.
happening. And some women really just want to birth that I call it birth, that.
Mhm.
And then they do things. Like I've had a woman say she made a tree and put it under the tree, and others, yeah, they don't know what to do, or but they know that they have to birth their baby, with whatever the weeks they are. And it's interesting, yeah, because I was curious. So people do reach out to you for that, and you just bring them back to just looking at, yeah, ways to. But that's the one I've seen a lot is like the tree method, like or out in the earth. Because I always feel like our bodies, of course, we know are one with the earth, and I've so much I have so many ashes right now in my house through all my family members, and I call it body dust. I call it body dust. And actually, this is kind of funny. I think you'd appreciate this. I had moved and I put all my family together in my closet in all the bags. And my brother's like, "What? You have our brother hanging out with mom and dad?" It was hilarious because we have to make like lightness of it, right? But I was like, well, you know what? They tortured me and they were divorced. I'm like, now they're going to sit together in the bags for now. Like, that's what we're going to do. But yeah, the body dust, like, but
I'm
do you
curious,
do,
Kelly.
yeah,
I'm,
yeah.
I'm just curious, what is your plan for your loved ones in your closet?
I have no
Do you have a
idea,
plan?
to be honest. Like, I think I don't know. Like I dusted my mom's body all around California to Arizona to Oregon. I left her in places that I hiked in. But man, there's a lot of body dust. Like I had no idea. This is your profession. I was like, that's a lot happening. And then my dad, I actually wasn't gonna get the ashes, and then I did. And then I was gonna split it with his wife, and then now she's like freaked out. I was like, I don't. So it's this kind of in between. And then my brother, I was given his wife, and I really was like, when I moved, I was like, do you think you can share some of his, ashes with me? And she's just said, here, take the whole thing. And it was like a tomb. It was like, it was heavy, like, I don't know, And so my brother recently just broke it open because we said, what if there's no ashes in there? Does that sound weird to say that? This was in Los Angeles too. Like, we don't know. And so I got to tell you, the most fascinating thing is, he broke it open and I was like, "Oh, you did that?" And he was just had a moment. I don't know. And I was like, "Okay." And he said it was his ashes were burned. It was on my little brother's birthday. I was like, "Wow,
Mm.
that's interesting." There's a little tag in there. And then he said, "Oh, yeah. So what is your recommendation?" Like, now I have 3 bags of ashes to work
Well,
with. I don't know.
I think my sense is it's time for a
Right?
family get together and a
Yeah.
ritual
Yeah.
where something happens with all of them and everybody is present.
Yeah.
And you don't know what might occur there. This is
That's
an
true.
opportunity for coming together, for healing.
Yeah.
Make it fun, make it profound, and
Yeah.
you either find a place where they're all buried together, or if you feel like it
Mm.
needs, but something has to be done. Don't leave
Yeah,
them in the
right. You're
closet.
like Olivia's
I
like,
mean,
what's I'm
the
all like
door,
that in my closet over there, like hanging out. And by the way, like this is a whole other conversation. I can feel the energy of the body dust. Like my husband in my old house, when my mom passed, I was like, I can feel where he put her. Like and he's like, no, he was trying to test me out. And I was like, I can feel her. I can feel the energy of her on there. And so now, I don't know, now has this changed because I'm trying to evolve through having to feel everything. But yeah, thank you for that. You're probably like quivering
well,
inside. Like, what is this happening?
well, you're right that everything does have an energy and it's in your
Yeah.
home and you're holding
Yeah.
on to it. So
Yeah.
if you're holding on to it, it's taking up space for you. And I would definitely recommend looking at what part of you isn't ready, doesn't want to let go of these family
Yeah.
members. There's this thing there. Work on that for a little bit, and then I'm happy to help you and to create something beautiful. They need to be released.
I know. And I think that's the thing is like, where are they going to go? Where am I going to put? Like, I don't know. It just, I think that's been the holdup. And then I just forgot, to be honest. I'm like, and then I'm, rearranging things. I'm like, oh, yeah. And then I literally brought, I call it my brother's tomb to my younger brother because we live together now because we're like the last. So I brought it to him and then he had it for a while because he actually said to me, I don't want him in the closet. And I was like, oh. I'm like, okay, like I don't know because he doesn't process a lot really. So I'm like, oh, there's like feelings in there. Yeah. So thank you for that.
I
Yeah.
think this is why it should definitely be a family decision. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't make the decision until you're all together with the three boxes on the coffee table.
Yeah.
And like you do, because as a medium,
Yeah.
bring in
I
the
know.
energies of these three people. And yeah, this is powerful. I would highly recommend doing this sooner rather
Yeah, and
than
I'll
later.
report back to the experience because I know it's going to be in the moment. Like I don't even know what to think ahead. Do you know what I'm saying? But thank you. I'm glad I brought that up. Thank you for saying that because yeah, I don't know. I'm just like maybe yeah, there's some levels of fear or uncertainty or does that mean they're so gone even though they're gone? I don't know. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot in there for sure. Now everybody knows my secret closet body dust family. Oh well.
Well, I think probably a lot of people share your fear of if once we scatter the ashes, then we've got nothing left. Once we
Yeah.
bury, it's finished. So that's a conversation to have with yourself and with others who are that's a whole topic, what to do with the ashes.
Yeah, I know. And it's been put aside, obviously, but yeah, thank you for that. So we're coming up to the end. What else do we wanted to share? You wanted to talk just a little, I know a little piece around the grief of the world right now. Yeah, we
Hmm.
got to take a deep breath for that one.
Hmm. Yeah, I do think that what do I say about that? I think as a not just a culture, but I think as humanity, we are grieving the loss of a way, the old way of doing, behaving,
Mm,
believing, assuming. It's all crumbling. And I look at it as a good, it was time.
mm,
And this is a very painful transition that we're going through. Um, and that transitions are usually painful. So again, noticing when I'm wishing it were different, that's when I'm doing this. And oh, this is terrible. You're doing
mm,
that. Taking that breath and letting yourself feel the pain, the sorrow, the grief that people are suffering so much in this transition. And just feeling that and in an open-hearted way, your heart falls open and now you can radiate love towards them.
mm,
It's not going to stop it. We can't prevent this collapse. It needed to happen for us to take the next step in our evolution. So being kind to ourselves as we go through it, radiating kindness and love and peace to everybody who's feeling it on whatever that level they're feeling it is for me a much more likely way of assisting the transition than trying to fight it
mm,
and shouting and standing up and resist. Um, it's like while we stay open, create, start to build this new thing over here that those who survive or those who who are willing to hear and see will come over and now we can create something incredible out of
mm,
this.
mhm,
Just beautiful. I and it's important to feel the sorrow and the grief of the pain that we are going. It's like the mother has to feel the grief, the loss, the sorrow of her miscarriage. She has to feel that. It's a great example of am I not letting myself really feel the feelings by making another Instagram post that talks about how bad the other person is? That's a great way to deflect a feeling that I could let myself quietly feel if I sit at home
mm,
and and just be with myself kindly in
mm.
in this. for me, I know that everybody has their own special path and their role, and there are some people whose job it is to be the activist and stand up there, and it's not my way, but I know that I honor and um, respect those who do take that stance because that's their way. And again, it's letting everybody follow what it is they
Yeah.
need to do for them. As long as we keep checking in, am I doing this to avoid a feeling, or am I doing this because this is why I came and this is important for me to do?
Mm.
And yeah, being honest. And that's a skill too, because we don't really, I think, are truly honest with ourselves very often about how we feel.
Mm.
Um, we're masters of deception, and
Yes.
all the ego wants to do is protect us. Some magical thing over here to distract me from no, just sitting quietly and having a very deep personal experience with my sorrow. Egos don't like that.
Mm.
They they want to fix it. But I just gently say, thank you, no, thank you right now. I'm gonna just sit.
Yeah, I've learned in the death space and the grief space, yeah, that yeah, there's nothing to fix. Those are just true energetic expression, feeling emotion. Because I think we all do that. Because I know in my head, going through all the death and grief, I was like, needs to be solved or fixed or figured out, or what do I need now? Because it's very different. And it's for me, I love spontaneity of just grief, healthy grief, I will call it, where it just kind of comes out and I feel it and then I just move on. Not like held and hung inside it. To me, then that's when I get self-abusive or in suffering to a point of like my mind will like takes over. But I remember a few different moments with others where, like with my husband, I saw something that reminded of my mom and I just started weeping and I wanted to feel it, but he touched me. And I didn't like
Mm,
that because it took me out of it. Because I all of a sudden I went into, oh, I need to take care of his feelings. And it really was like,
mm,
whoa, I learned that about myself. And other times where I did it and someone hugged me, I'm like, oh, I really need that right now. That felt really nice. And so I was like,
mm,
wow, it's just like you, I feel like what you were sharing a lot of is like being so present. So everyone's going to experience grief and death. It's just the reality. And I know we're talking specifically on baby loss, but we know it's just so much more than that. It's so much more present in our lives all the times. And I want any final thoughts that you can share and ways that
mm.
people can connect with you because I believe, is it your death midwifery training? Do you do it more Zoom and globally now, or is it more? I remember when I went, it was in person only.
I try to do at least one every year in person because I know a lot of
Yeah, I
people are just
know.
tired of Zoom and they want to gather in person. And
Yeah.
the material is exactly the same and it does transfer over Zoom beautifully. So though it doesn't matter either one. I'm actually doing one well, this is October, so I do have an in-person in February,
Wow.
and I divided the whole course is 4 levels, but the first two you get a certificate of completion for death doula,
Oh,
and
wow.
Enter
Okay.
the Grave is my first class is Enter the Grave, and that is a deep personal look at one's fears and beliefs and conditioning about death which is mostly untrue and not helpful. So we look at what that is and break that down, and so that we can fall open to receive death. I talk a lot about giving birth and receiving death and how the portal is the same, but like the swing door is going this way. So we give birth and then we receive death.
Mm.
So it's to help somebody um, to learn a few tools that they can use in their everyday life. So when death comes upon them, whether they're dying of a terminal illness, they can practice these tools will become they go, oh, I know how to do this. I need to lay open to receive this
Mm.
because it's going to be the most beautiful thing. sadly, most people are terrified of it, so they clutch at cures and anything to save themselves. We can't save ourselves. We're all going to go. So, Enter the Grave is a deep inquiry into what are we saving here? Is it, do we hope for a few more years of dying because we'll never go back to the way we were? Can I use, do I want one more treatment so that I can have time to practice dying? That's a very good reason to go for another
Mm.
treatment.
Hmm.
And it started with a Buddhist monk once who said what we want to pray for is a long illness so that we get lots of time to prepare and lots of time to practice
Mm. Interesting.
dying.
Yeah.
And that's
Wow.
what most people dread. So yeah, and so that's Enter the Grave. That's level one. And level two, it's called conscious dying. And that's how to prepare with the nuts and bolts, how to put your things in order, how to be present to somebody who's dying, medical aid in dying, stopping eating and drinking, all of those practical details that the death doula would need to have in his or her toolkit to take somebody all the way up to the last breath. And then level three is, I call level 3 and 4 is really, I call it the death midwife class, but really death midwifery is the umbrella for everything from the moment you know that you're dying until you're in the grave. And that should include the caregivers, the hospice, the chaplains, the funeral directors, the cemetery workers, because we're midwifing death. We're care of this event. Just like birth midwifery includes the birth doulas and supporting the mother through the birth moment, and then for 3 days, at least 3 days afterwards, right, till the milk comes down. All of that is birth midwifery, and so death midwifery is everything, but people have different roles in there. The death doula is the one who helps put things together and goes up to the last breath. The midwife might take the soul through those 3 days after death. What's happening there? That's a and then the ceremonies, the rituals at the graveside, or what we can do with sudden death. How can I support a family when their son is, uh, had a traumatic motorcycle accident and he's at the coroner? This is the midwife is midwifing that period of time where the family are coming to grips with this terrible, tragic event that happened in their life, and they might not ever see their son, so they might not get to do those kind of rituals. So the midwife helps create other kind of rituals that will help them feel what they're feeling so that they can move forward in their life in some way. Um, so that's the whole program, but most people seem to take training, which is level 1 and 2. Um, and please go to my website, sacredcrossings.com, under the courses and trainings, explain how I break down each class.
When people ask me about where I studied death midwifery, for years I send people to your direction because I'm like, this it was such a great training experience, and I know you do it a little different. But I have to say, like, out of all the courses, I even did the third one, which was like preparing the body. It's like, and I tell people it's not what I wanted to do, but it was such an amazing learning experience and what's involved. I felt like there's a benefit to learning all of the modules. But my favorite was definitely conscious dying. I think because it was the most activating. And I'm guilty for self-punishing myself I'm a processor, so I want to like feel things and like work on those things because, conscious dying is there's a lot to that. And then I know a lot of people I've talked to, and they love the first one, the kind of looking at death, that spiritual kind of self connection. But yeah, so now we know where you can go. And this is when people ask me, actually, people ask me, am I a death midwife? And I says, well, I think everybody's a death midwife. I said, I was trained in it, but I don't like call myself that. I feel like that's for you, Olivia, and other people that are, I don't know, sitting more bedside or that are going to be around people and doing that whole death process. That's just my own mental like thought process. But so Thank you again so much for coming and sharing all this. Yeah, it was really
A pleasure.
amazing. Yeah.
Thank you for opening the space and inviting this conversation. It's so important. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I want to thank everybody for joining episode 225, Sacred Crossing, Compassionate Care and the Art of Death Midwifery. Thank you for joining Spirit Baby Radio with your host, me, Kelly Meehan. Please join my community and stay in touch with monthly energy rants, Spirit Baby poetry, and get access to Spirit Baby 101 with tips and practices at my newsletter at newearthchildren.com. And join me on Instagram with lives at Spirit Baby Medium, and join the Mighty Networks, the Spirit Baby Collective membership, and Motherhood to Mediumship. Remember, you are the heart that holds communication, and it is your time to connect. Come share in the great shift of your mind and the true spirit of your heart with Spirit Baby Communication.